I've had so much fun this week. Seeing the companies you're building is great. Even more exciting than that is seeing the vision that you have and where you want to take things. So we're down to the end. I'm going to keep this short and sweet, I promise, but there is a tremendous opportunity in the investments we're making in service for Evergreen companies that are there for the taking. We're interacting with customers in more ways than ever. Some of those interactions are going really well, some of them aren't so well. But there's more to it than that. There's far more than Net Promoter Score. There's far more than customer satisfaction, customer delight that we can and must go after. I think I've always enjoyed this space, probably long before I knew it. My father was in the telecommunications, data communications world his whole life. And in the third grade, he helped me with this science project, and we basically built a little telephone switch and put it on a 4x8 sheet of plywood. There's no way I'd remember how to do it today. But it was pretty cool. You'd pick up the handset on one side, and it would ring, and the phone on the other side would ring, and you could have a conversation. This wasn't tin can and string. This was electronic communication. And I remember one of my third grade friends coming by and trying it out. He said, "That's really neat. But why do you need it? They're standing right there. Just have a conversation with them." I'm like, you don't get it. It's a concept. You got to add distance. I see middle schoolers today sitting next to each other, texting each other. Maybe he was on to something before the rest of us. I don't know. But I want to ask you a quick trivia question from deep history. And there's a reason I throw this in. So Alexander Graham Bell invented the telephone in 1876. This guy named Almond B. Strouger came along a handful of years later and invented the electromechanical telephone exchange, which allowed you to dial a person or a business directly. By trade, he was A, a sailor, B, an engineer, C, an undertaker, D, a university professor. How many A's do we have? Okay, B's, C's, weirdest answer in there. How many D's? All right, you guys are reading way too broadly. The C's have it. He was an undertaker. Go for the weird answer, right? Go for the weirdest one. He had a funeral business in St. Louis. There was a competitor who had a family member who worked in the Bell system, in the central office exchange, and Strouger was convinced that person was intentionally misdirecting calls to his competitor. So he set up this shop in his basement, set out to invent the electromechanical telephone exchange, sold it to the Bell system. They sat on it for about 40 years, 50 years before they began to implement it. But modern day iterations now, search, hashtags, let the individual, you and I, as we're interacting, as we're going out needing the information, the services, the person, the company that we want to talk to or interact with, we need to be in control. Make that happen now. Get us that information right away. So much has come along since then, of course. This is a map of the subsea cable network across the world. Now this is just the oceans. If I were to show a land-based map, it would be virtually a solid line. You can click into any part of this and get the detail. So this is the network that runs up the coast to Alaska. Any one of these cables can carry 33 million simultaneous calls, 22 billion text messages a second. You could download 650 two-hour full-length movies in a second. We talk about our connected world. And it's almost a cliche, but it's so amazing when we get glimpses at it. And in more recent years, especially the last 2 or 3 years, the most substantial investments have been happening on our customers' side. Smartphones, social, mobile. They buy these things, and it's not just the dollars that they're spending, it's the learning curve, it's the time they're spending to really get to know and use these things. That's a part of our ecosystem. That's a part of the opportunity that we have. This is the most level playing field that we've ever had. Doesn't matter how big your company is, how small you may be, who your competitors are, how entrenched they may be. Doesn't matter how long they've been at it. how new you are to it. This is a level playing field like none we've ever seen. And we're seeing disruption day after day because of those who are taking advantage of this. So how do you get service right when you're interacting with your customers and you're thinking through all of the options? How do we get it right? It's a unique journey, to be sure. And a prerequisite, we strongly believe, we've seen this with every organization that we've worked with, is this has to be a leadership responsibility. It has to emanate from the top. For one thing, you have to get past some of the misconceptions, the perspectives that can be less than helpful. Service is a cost. It's necessary, prevented as possible, but keep a lid on it. There's a grain of truth to that. Great service is expensive. That's not where we're making our investments as a startup or in the phase of growth that we're in. Or let's go benchmark others. Let's get the formula. Yet Amazon, Zappos, just to use two examples, they have very different approaches at customer service, very customer-centric. It's one of the reasons Jeff Bezos and Tony Hsieh said the acquisition made sense. Let's share ideas. So finding the formula can be elusive. One thing's for sure, it's a leadership responsibility because it emanates from your culture. It has to reflect your brand, your direction, the very core of who you are, a subject that's come up a number of times as we've been together this week. Beyond that, what can we do? We've got to be out there and spend time with it. As busy as things are, as busy as your worlds are, spend time out there. Make it a priority. John C. Bogle, who founded the Vanguard Group, it's now the largest mutual fund company in the country. They were small at one point. He founded this company from scratch, grew it to a major organization. But year after year, he's in his 80s now, year after year in his career, he would take time to work in their call center. And he wasn't an everyday thing, wasn't an all-the-time thing, but he did it enough. He knew what was happening. They routed the simplest kinds of contacts to him. He often talked about how hard that work is. On more than one occasion, he had a customer say, do you mind transferring me to your supervisor? I just need to get this resolved. Just need to get this done. But what better way to see what was really happening than be right there? Beyond leadership, how do you get this right? How do you build out the approach that's right for you? And I want to suggest a very simple but very effective framework to think this through with your team. Decisions, the kind of conversations you can have internally, decide what makes sense to put in place. So service can deliver value on three primary levels. And the first is efficiency. The big question with efficiency, beyond preventing interactions that never should happen in the first place, and by all means do that. Product glitches, customer communication that isn't clear, website issues, fix those things. Beyond that, the big question is, where do we need a presence? There are hundreds of places you could be just out in the social world, let alone mobile and all the other places you can be. The good news is your customers will show you the way. You don't have to overthink this one. We did some work for a biotech company in the Bay Area recently, Evergreen company. They're growing. They're doing some really cool things. They sell into both the hospital space and the consumer market. And they recently had some soft sales, and their investors were getting nervous, and things they just didn't seem like they were going in the right direction. So we took a look at things with them, and one of the things we found is on their website, and 60% of the prospects were using mobile devices, on their website there were specific places where they were bailing out before it turned into a phone call or a web-based interaction that could lead to a relationship. So they cleaned up the language a little bit, made it simple to use. They also put text chat right there. Click to interact with us. Had a small team. They were worried about staffing resources. It turned out to be staffing neutral, and sales took an immediate jump. Be there where they are. I wrote a blog on Zappos some time back, in the early 2000s, mid-2000s, somewhere in there. And Zappos, They've gotten so much great press. But I wrote this blog, I posted it out there, nothing to tag to them so much. And I got a contact from them, I got an email from them just a few minutes later. Hey, Mr. Cleveland, thanks for the great words, appreciate it. And I'm like, I had to reply, thanks for the thanks. Who are you? What part of the company do you work in? He said, I'm a part of Tony's team. He was part of the customer care operation. They were using some early social media listening tools to get those interactions right to desktops. It's that old quote, who was it, Woody Allen, 80% of success is just showing up. Just show up, and your customers will show you the way. Don't overthink this one. One more note on efficiency, and I want to hit briefly loyalty and strategic value. 82% of our customers, according to this recent survey, say, just resolve my issue quickly. Just enable me to get this done. This is not exotic. And it agrees with virtually every other study with a similar focus. Just enable me to resolve my issue quickly. So I've got a slide in the category of, I can't believe he included it. And I'm going to be brief with it. But here's a big part of the answer. No queues. There doesn't have to be queues out there. It drives customers crazy. We're not doing our job when that happens. This is Erlang C. It's been around for almost 100 years. It's being rediscovered in today's environment when we're interacting through so many ways, and when tolerance for queues has gone down so much. We don't want to get stuck in queue. So happily, you don't have to use the formula. Someone on your team should be, and using one of the calculators that are out there. There are many that are free. Do a search and you'll find things. This is one that we've been giving out for years. We're not in the software business, it's Erlang C. It's just in simpler form. So you plug in how many customers do you have, how long do those interactions last, and it will tell you here's the wait time for different levels of staff. So middle of the road service level, you see the one I highlighted here. If we have 34 agents, there are 37 of our 250 customers who have to wait 30 seconds or longer. Then we answer, what is that, 8 of them, so 29 are waiting 40 seconds or longer, on down to this one poor soul who tried to reach us at the worst possible time. That was the longest wait with that middle of the road service level. Murphy's Law is that's our most important customer trying to reach us. But that's the worst case. The thing to note is what happens if we're not staffed right. The queue goes ballistic. That bike clinic with Rebecca yesterday, one of the things she taught us is look ahead, stay on the path. You have to stay on the path. It's only this wide in many places. Easy enough to do. If we get off the path, things get rough real quick like. So there doesn't have to be queues. Go in, and if you've got someone on your team who's bringing this to you for budgetary purposes, there ought to be an urgency to the message that they're trying to get across. Hey, here are the resources we need to make it easy for our customers. A second level of value, there's efficiency, being out there in the right places, preventing queues, interacting where they need us, and customer loyalty. And if they want us to resolve their issue quickly, then what's the best high-level measure? There's this wonky debate that's going on right now in customer service circles. Net Promoter Score has been really the most built out. Not everybody uses it. The advantage with Net Promoter Score is that you can do an easy comparison across organizations, across industries. It's great. I like Net Promoter Score a lot. The new kid on the block is customer effort. If Net Promoter Score asks, well, how likely is it you're going to recommend us to a friend or a colleague? Customer effort goes a little more granular. How easy did we make this? If that's what you're saying, if that's the number one issue that leads to a great experience, how easy was it to resolve your issue on a scale of 1 to 10? And we're seeing some leading organizations begin to roll that out, a very similar template to Net Promoter. Most of them they're not leaving Net Promoter Score behind. It's a parallel effort, but they're seeing that customer effort's an even better predictor of loyalty. I think this whole debate is missing the larger opportunity that we have. Use any of these. I like customer effort. Net promoter's well established, but there's a whole world beyond that. And these first two levels are just the ticket into the big game. Strategic value. What are we learning? Interaction after interaction after interaction from our customers that can help us build products and services and processes. So I did some work for a company in the Midwest. You'd know who they are. It's a large, closely held Evergreen company by any measure. They really live out the Evergreen values. And they went through a tough time with their customer service area. They do this company-wide employee satisfaction survey. And their customer service area was second from the bottom in satisfaction. I'm talking to their director one afternoon. It's like, I have nothing to lose here. They hate it. They hate this work. It's drudgery. The only reason they take these jobs is so they can get their foot in the door and go get something else when that opportunity comes up. What do I do? And they kicked that around and decided, let's really press in and create value for our organization. He began building relationships with his peers across the organization, and he put a little part-time team together to analyze what was happening. And they didn't have the latest and greatest analytics or anything, very rudimentary technology in a lot of ways. But one of the things they found is that 11% of the calls they were getting on contacts of all types they were getting on one of their cleaning products, spray cleaning products, was because the cap was hard to remove. So you buy it as a consumer, you take it home, it's hard to get the cap off, so you're out in the garage and screwdriver or whatever, and all too often you'd force it off and shear off the spray nozzle. Doesn't work, throw it away, make a mental note, never buy that brand again. Thank goodness for those customers who contacted them. I'm gonna give them a piece of my mind, just $5 on this. Put your contact information out there where they can use it. It will come back to you in many multiples. I'm gonna tell them what just happened. They were able to, when they contacted the organization, they were able to, at level 2, send coupons for other products and keep them on board as happy customers, at least salvage the brand, if not that product so much. But at level 3, they went to their packaging supplier and they said, hey, here's the data that we have. Here's the challenge that we have. They fixed that problem and those contacts went away. That was like learning to hurdle a rock on a bike path yesterday. Whoa, I know how to do that now. That's fun. What else is there? And they drilled down even more. They'd get contacts like, I've got an antique car and can I use these products on it? It doesn't say I can, but I'm assuming it might be okay. I don't know, little internal conversation. Yes, and voila, new product category, new marketing angle. This is a consumer products company. If they can do this, anybody can. I've seen in industry after industry after industry, service leaders invite their customers in, invite their employees in to be a part of building great companies. It's the heart and soul of the opportunity we have from in an evergreen business because we're building for the long term. And it goes to the heart of trust and the word of mouth, the powerful innovation that we're able to tap into. A couple of quick stats in closing. This is a comparison with stock price, service leaders, service laggards. And this group would be the first to suggest that stock price isn't the end-all proxy on value, but it's an indication. It's a symptom. So the S&P's gone up 51.5% over the past 7 years. Experienced leaders, almost 78%. Laggards dropped by 2.5%. This is over a 7-year period. Service matters. A study I like even more, the Gallup company found a 240% boost in performance-related outcomes. And yet the number's so big, you almost have to drill in and see what they were talking about to believe it. Broad-based study, some great work here. 240% boost when both customers and employees are engaged. Wow. How do you create engaged employees? Some great discussions this week around that. How do you create great customers and engaged employees? Invite them into your business. Say, hey, we want you to partner with us in so many ways to build a great company. That Evergreen company I mentioned in the Midwest, second to last in employee satisfaction surveys, their service area. They're now second from the top. You walk in, their eyes light up when they talk about what they do. What do you do? We're helping a lot of people, and we're interacting with them and making sure that goes great. But beyond that, that's the ticket to something bigger. We're right in the middle of our products, our services, our processes. Our organization knows us. They love to have us as a part of that effort because they need us. And for those of us in that effort, work's fun. You're building something. You're building something great. It's almost an evergreen mindset. What can we take? What can we learn? And how can we take that and make it great? That's the opportunity that we have. Thank you very much.